Our topic of today is competitive forces and stakeholders theory. We can recall last week we discussed comprehensively on business environment and Porter's theory. And I hope that one is understood. So today, we are looking at competitive forces and stakeholders theory. What the topic is all about is very simple and direct. It is simple in that I'll try as much as possible to bring the topic down to your level of understanding so that you can easily digest it. So it will be easier for you to recall before the exam, during the exam, after the exam, you can be able to retain it. So part of the benefits that we derive is choosing equity as our choice center for academic excellence. So this particular topic that we are looking at, in exam condition, there are just two ways to look at it. I can give you a case scenario. In that case scenario, they will give you the history of a company or history of a particular country or nation where we have so many firms, serial entrepreneurs doing business. The condition in that industry, they will tell you how attractive the industry will be stated in that case scenario. And they will tell you the level of competition that is occurring in that industry or market and the possibility or likelihood of new entrants, new competitor to join that industry. At the same time, they are going to inform you. Part of the thing that they will embed in that case study is the necessary government policy that is either favorable or not favorable to the existing competitors and the new competitors that are vying to enter into the industry. When all these information are given to you, they will not tell you that using the available information in that case scenario, explain so in line with the Porter's competitive forces analysis. That is one case scenario. Another way we can have it is to have it as a direct question. They might ask you to comprehensively discuss or identify and discuss on the 5 forces model of Porter's. The 5 forces model of Porter that we are about to discuss on, they can just take one element or one forces there and turn it to question. And probably when we are through, I will tell you how they can do that. And at the same time, once we look at it, we are going to look at the stakeholders theory. In the stakeholders theory, I'm going to inform you who are the stakeholders, who are the shareholders, the types of the stakeholders that we have, which they will ask you in exam. Not quite long in some of the preceding exam, they ask them to itemize the number of stakeholders known to the candidate and explain. So we are going to look at the types of stakeholders. At the same time, we look at the Mandela's stakeholders theory or mapping. So once we have done that, the next thing that we have under this syllabus is to look at the stakeholders expectation. So with that, we have covered the syllabus. And that's one reason why I ensure that the note is not too wordy, it's not too witty. So they are concise notes. And most of the key points at times that we need, I've used different color pencil to indicate. So to start with, in our competitive force today, the first thing we are looking at is to know the meaning of industry. As you can see in the study material, that industry implies the coming together of different firms. What do you say? Hello? Hello, I'm listening. Please note you are free to make comments observation, ask question. It's an interactive class.
Sorry to cut
So
you
you can
short.
speak up. Okay.
Promise to send us an updated notes for two after
Note
the
for what?
class last.
Okay, I will do that
This
today. I've done the necessary corrections for you. Thanks for that observation. Bless you. On business environment, I've done that for you. Thank you. So can we continue now? Hello? Is there any other question or observation? Please talk. Can I proceed?
Yes, sir. You can proceed, sir.
Okay. So industry implies the coming together of 2, 3, or 4 firms that operate in the same specialized areas. It implies the coming together of at least 2 companies that produce slightly differentiated or undifferentiated goods and services. So anytime we are talking of industry, we have large number of firms that render similar services and sell probably the same commodity to the same target customers. So typical example of what we call industry, we have the manufacturing industry, construction industry, the mining industry, agricultural industry, the tourism industry. So when you look at all these aforementioned industry, you will discover that the participants that operate in that industry, they render virtually the same services or sell the same commodity to the same target customers. But anytime we are talking of segmented industry, the segmented industry are the part of the industry that had been separated because of the heterogeneous nature of the services they render. When we have industry, like for instance, the manufacturing industry can be segmented. That we have food and beverages industry. Do you get it? So in a segmented industry, we have identifiable segments that is divided based on the areas of specialization. So in an industry now, for instance, in the service industry now, we have the medical industry, we have the insurance industry, we have the tourism industry. That's what we call segmented industry. So all this underlying knowledge will help us as we proceed in this our topic. So next we look at the generic types of industry. The generic types of industry, according to Michael Porter, the scholars stated that we have 5 types of industry. The 5 types of industry that we have, as you can see, is we have fragmented industry. The word fragment, they are smaller companies that sell to relatively smaller number of customers. That's what we call fragmented industry. They are small industry, infant companies that it was established not quite long, and they are still experiencing growth. They are striving for survival. The funny thing is that the company is small and the number of customers they are selling to is small. Their total market share is equally what? Small. So the fragmented industry comprises of firms that operate on a niche basis, smaller basis. And examples that you can see there, that we put something like an hairdressing, cleaning services, shoe repair, fumigating services, POS services. All these things are what we call fragmented industry. Apart from the fragmented industry, we have emerging industry. So the emerging industry, they are upcoming industry that is a little bit larger than the fragmented industry. They are equally an infant industry, but now they are growing. They are experiencing sustainable growth and development. So they are bigger than the smaller firms under fragmented industry. The next to that is matured industry. The mature industry, they are fully grown industry that operates both in domestic and international domain. So this industry comprises of so many participants, including local industry, multinational companies, and conglomerate organizations within and outside the country. A good example of mature industry is the manufacturing sector in Nigeria, the automobile sector in Nigeria. They are mature industry. The transportation industry, the construction industry, all these ones are what we call mature industry. Next to that is the declining industry. The word decline should be understood to mean decrease, reduce. That's what we call decline. But this particular term, declining or decline, we are still going to meet it next weekend when we are taking product life cycle and BCG. So declining industry is an industry that is not all that attractive again. It's an industry that is oversaturated with competitors. Declining industry is an industry that majority of companies that was formerly operating in that industry, they are exiting the industry because the industry is not attractive, it's becoming non-profitable again. This can be attributed to so many reasons. It can be as a result of harsh government policy. It can be as a result of poor economic condition. It can be as a result of maybe artificial monopoly. And it can be as a result of declining purchasing power, or the operating expenses is too much. And that is what a lot of companies are experiencing in Nigeria. Nigerian business environment is hostile. So majority of the industry are hostile, and so many companies are existing. So in a declining industry, is an industry that is becoming too hostile. It's not a profitable or attractive industry. And as a result of that, a lot of companies are leaving the industry. Global industry, the global industry comprises of international industry. We have so many companies come from different nations, different geographic boundary to transact business with the aim of making profit. And the global industry too is not limited to companies alone. Government too participate in global industry because majority of government country they trade. Hello?
We can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yes,
All this why I didn't know that you are lost. Oh, okay. Briefly again, I said there are some preambles that I want you to understand before we quickly look at the Porter 5 forces model and the stakeholders analysis. And the preambles are what we call industry. We said the industry implies the coming together of two or more companies that produce relatively similar products or slightly differentiated goods and services, which are directed to the same target audience in the market. And the essence of participating in the industry is to make and maximize profit, to create value to the customers, and to have a fair share of the industry benefits. Anytime we talk about the industry segments, that means we segment the industry so that we can be able to satisfy the heterogeneous needs of the customers. But the customers' needs are not the same. So in a segmented industry, we have a specialized industry being separated from each other. So the automobile industry now, we can have 2, 3 companies coming together. Those ones are producing headlamps, those ones are producing batteries and the rest. those companies or firms producing automobile spare parts, they can come together. That's a segment. So having a look at that, I discussed on the 5 types of industry. That is fragmented industry. We say fragmented industry are smaller industry that capture smaller opportunity in the market, and they sell to small number of customers. They are fragmented industry because they are infant industry, and they don't have that financial capability or strength to expand. They can't just expand overnight. So due to that, they still operate on a fragmented basis. The next thing is emerging industry. The emerging industry, they are upcoming industry. The industry is growing. It's becoming a little bit bigger than the fragmented industry. And this industry, they have future potential opportunities. And they will need government support and enabling environment for them to nurture their growth. That is the emerging industry. Apart from the emerging industry, I discussed on the mature industry. Mature industry is a fully grown industry where a lot of companies operate within and outside the country. After that, we made mention of the declining industry. The declining industry is an industry that is having series of challenges. That industry is not attractive. The industry is not appealing again. And the industry is becoming hostile because companies are struggling to break even, not to talk of making profits. So in a declining industry, we experience a lot of high turnover of companies leaving that industry. The reason why the industry is hostile or becoming unattractive could be attributed to probably the economic situation, the government policy, the increasing operating expenses, lack of stable light, insecurity. Some of those things that are peculiar to Nigeria that we are experiencing every day can make an industry to become a declining industry. And anytime a industry is said to be declined, that means companies are experiencing retrogressing performance. They are betting towards negative returns. So as a result of that, there exists that industry. So why the global industry means international industry, why firms, nations operate transfer business and foreign exchange, and this foreign exchange can be used to procure those materials they cannot produce internally. Government can use that money to realize for balance of payment deficits and minimum. So immediately after that, before the network trip off, we talk about convergence. Convergence means the coming together of 2 or more companies or industry for them to achieve alliance and specialization so that they can be able to earn more profit, have competitive edge over other existing rivals in the market. Now I mentioned that convergence, we have 2 types of convergence. One convergence is caused by demand. The increasing customer demand can push companies to go into alliance or convergence. And the other one can come as a result of supply. So we have 2 types of convergence. We have the demand-led convergence and we have the supply-led convergence. In the demand-led convergence, the increasing demand of the customers, the demand for innovation, and it can be the demand for latent needs. Anytime we say the customers have latent need or they are making what we call latent demand, the meaning is very simple. The latent demand means that the consumers or customers are demanding for a product that is not in existence. That is the meaning of latent demand. And anytime the consumers are demanding for a product that is not in existence, and we don't want to lose these customers, valuable customers to our competitors, we can go into convergence or alliance with another company that can assist us in the area of research and the production of this new product. so that customer's need and expectations can be met and we can be able to sustain them. So demand-led convergence can be attributed to the customers' increasing demand and the need for innovative products. But when it comes to supply-led convergence, that one occurs when companies merge, industry merge, to surpass the expectations of customers in terms of product demand, or probably to meet certain government requirements. So companies can come together. So with that underlying knowledge or some basic terms that we have under this particular topic, so permit me now to start the Porter's 5 forces model. The Porter's 5 forces model is a popular model. In fact, I will tell you that it's a regular customers and NICAN exam and other professional exams. Even in postgraduate, undergraduate exams, when you are doing strategic management, you are doing marketing management, this is a very household name topic that you will come across. So Porter 5 forces model is a model that was formulated by Michael Porter for individual businessmen, corporate organizations, multinational companies to analyze the degree of competition in any industry where they operate. Please get me right because we have limited time for our lecture. As a Porter 5 forces model, this model is used to analyze the degree of competitiveness and attractiveness of certain industry or market. With better understanding of this 5 forces model, the individual like you and I and companies, we can be able to identify who are our competitors. Who are the potential competitors that are vying to enter this industry? What are the challenges in this industry? What can the company do to survive or achieve sustainable growth in the industry? That is the essence of the Porter 5 forces model. And according to Michael Porter, he said, analysis of the degree of competition in a market, it is very essential because competitors, they are toxic to our business. So your competitors are your greater enemy. As a result of that, you must ensure constant environmental analysis, constant competition analysis in whatever industry where you are operating. Even if you are the market leader, you must continuously use this 5 forces model to know the trend in the industry. So according to Michael Porter, he said there are 5 forces model that can be used to analyze the nature of competition in an industry. The 5 forces model are: 1, threat of new entrants, the threat of new entrants. 2, availability of substitute products. 3, bargaining power of suppliers. 4, bargaining power of buyers. And the last one is rivalry among major competitors. Those are the 5 forces model. And ability to know this and analyze it will give the company advantage in how to manipulate their strategies depending on the challenges they are experiencing in the industry. So looking at the first one, let's go to the first one, threat from new entrants. Some of the basic things that we need to know there and we need to retain are pencil with different colors. The first one that we have is the threat from new entrants. The first thing that I want you to know here that will make you to understand all these stories that we have here is that who are the new entrants? Once you know the new entrants, you already know the reason why they put threats there. The new entrants, they are the potential competitors. New entrants, they are the potential competitors that is striving to enter existing. That informed us that those people that we call new entrants, presently, they are not selling, they are not operating in the market or the industry. But they are doing everything positive, everything possible to ensure their emergence, participation in the industry, all because that industry is attractive. Porter said all the existing competitors, companies in the industry must not allow the new entrants to enter the industry. He said, if you give them opportunity to come, they will erode your profit making. If the new entrant comes, they will snatch your customers. They will reduce your sales. If the new entrants are fortunate to enter a particular industry, they might be coming with a superior product or marketing strategy, which will reduce or hinder your return on investment. So due to that, Michael Porter is advising that to limit the threat of the new entrants, companies are advised to place a high entry barrier. That all companies are advised, existing companies are advised to place a high entry barrier. By the time you place a high entry barrier, that means they will find it extremely difficult to penetrate the market. If at all few are fortunate to penetrate, we are going to limit the number of new entrants that emerge in the already saturated industry. So he said, anytime companies place high entry barrier, then it will lower the number of new entrants that will enter the market. But if a company show complacence, you don't put in place high entry barrier, and you now put in place a low entry barrier, this will attract a large number of new entrants to enter the market. And this might threaten your stability, survival, profitability, and sustainability. So to limit the threat of the new entrant, we are advised to place a high entry barrier. Because anytime the entry barrier is low, then a lot of them will emerge. They will come to the industry, and this will force your profit to be low. In fact, you might even be forced to reduce your price because of the emergence of the new entrants. So having looked at that, please quickly scroll down and look at the subtopic that I titled Major Entry Barriers that determine emergence of new entrants. If you are there, please signify for me, please.
But to benefit the consumers.
It will benefit the consumers, yes. It will benefit the consumers because it will break the monopoly of some of the existing companies. And at the same time, it will give the consumer the room for choice. A majority of the new entrants too, when they are coming, they might come with a penetration pricing strategy that they will sell at a reasonable low price that will benefit the consumers. But as an investor that operates in certain industry, if you are in that shoe too, you will not be happy when the entry barrier is loose. This one will just be bringing influx of many new competitors within and outside the country. And this one too can chase you out of the business. And that's the reason why you have to ensure that you do what? You place a high entry barrier. And that is exactly the scenario that is happening between Dangote oil refinery now that is about to kickstart and NNPC. So it will break their cartel. If they have their way, they don't want the emergence of that Dangote refinery. Is that understood now? it has its own advantage, it has its own disadvantage. But from the investor aspect, nobody pray that any industry or market where you are operating and we now have influx of new entrants to come in. Is that understood? Okay.
Yes, it
So
is. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Bless you. We now have major entry barriers that determine emergence of new entrants. Please note, look at how I title it. Major entry barriers that determine emergence of new entrants. What this one means is that in exam condition, they will put in the case scenario some favorable factors that might attract the new entrants to come. And it is possible they might put some unfavorable factors that will discourage the new entrants to come. So this particular topic now address that, because this topic is discussing on the likely factors that can encourage or discourage the new entrants to participate in certain industry. The first thing that we have as a major determinant of emergence of new entrants is economic of scale. Without wasting much of time or reading in between lines and what have you, what we are trying to say here is that if the new competitor that is coming, they have opportunity to serve large number of markets, they have opportunity to sell their product to large number of customers, potential customers, and they have the opportunity to gain economic of scale, mass production, then automatically they will come. Is that understood? Because the larger the quantity they produce, the lower will be their operating cost. And since the number of customers they are even selling to, they are larger, then they can be able to make substantial profits. The second one is capital investment requirements.
I'm struggling to get how is a barrier and how it's been, yeah, how it's a barrier.
It's a barrier. It is a barrier because even in that market, they don't have the opportunity to produce in large quantity. And the number of potential customers that are showing willingness to buy their product if it is formally launched, they are small. Then it becomes a barrier because they cannot break even. They can't produce that. In the economic of scale, if they have basic factors of production, then it will affect their ability to achieve mass production. Higher. And this one might hurt their sell at higher price. I know that they are just coming. Their brand has not been known. So high operating costs or some restriction to some basic infrastructure or resources, then automatically it will hurt them. So under the economic of scale, if you have the opportunity to serve a larger market, large number of potential customers, the distributors are willing to buy stock and assist you in selling the products, and we can produce in mass production, then the new entrants will come. Even I myself, that will invest in that industry. But if those opportunities are not there, please don't go. Is that understood?
Yeah,
so
please.
The second one,
So,
capital investment requirements.
can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Or should I chill with my question and when you're done, I ask?
Hey, you can ask. So everybody will gain.
Okay, thank you so much. So, for this barrier, who influences this barrier? Is it the people already in the business, or because this one sounds like an external factor that is not influenced by the people in the business.
Okay. Is that a question?
Yes, please. I want to, yeah.
Okay. That's a very good question. Thank you for that. All these barriers, one, can be influenced by the existing competitors. Two, some barriers can be planted by the government itself, either to encourage or discourage new entrants. Some barriers they are designed or occur as a result of members of the distribution channels. And some barriers, they are designed by nature, or probably because of some people that want to gain artificial monopoly or retain their competitive position. They don't want rivals. Is that understood? That is how the barriers comes from. The barriers are multidimensional.
Yeah.
They get it.
Well
So
done.
by the time we proceed further, now you will understand better. The second barrier that we have is capital investment requirements. Under this one now, if you check, I don't know, I'm not too sure if it is May diet or November diet, 2020 diet. Go and check that diet. Question number 1, compulsory question. In that question number 1, compulsory question, I can text 2 topic in 1 question. They tested strategic clock analysis and they tested this topic that we are looking at now, Porter's 5 forces model. But what I want to use there is that question centers on Air Spirits Limited. The company operates in airline industry. And when you read the case study, it's a very lengthy case study, almost a page and a half. We are told in that case study that the number of competitors in the industry, they are few, particularly in the charter flight, all because of high operating costs. Cost of capital investment is too high. And that's the reason majority of them, they don't go into airline business, not to talk of chartered airline industry. And exactly what we are saying here. In the capital investment requirement, if the amount of capital required, the initial capital outlay to start the business is too high, it will discourage a lot of potential investors or competitors. But if the amount required to start the business and the level of risks attached is low, a lot of competitors will be willing to come to that industry if the industry is attractive. That's a simple thing that we should note there. So next thing that we have is access to distribution channels. You can see another barrier now. That's the reason why I'm telling you, those barriers are multidimensional. The access to distribution channels here means that if the new potential customer competitors that are coming, they went trans to meet all the major distributors, all the channels members, the marketing intermediaries, the wholesalers, the retailers, the order getters, and what have you. If these people are showing willingness to assist them in selling their product and create a brand shelf, because it's a new product, then the new entrant will come. But you will agree with me that this new product they are bringing is a newly born baby. The brand has not been established. Some of the distributors too, they will be reluctant to commit their finance because they want to minimize their financial losses. No matter their level of risk appetite, these companies will like to sell established products that have been tested and the brand has been accepted. That is one fact. Another angle you look at it is that some of the distributors are selling to existing major companies, and a part of the bond that they have signed, they are not to sell other competitors' products. That might restrict them. Thirdly, what can restrict their access to distributor is because some distributors want to observe, monitor the performance of the products. After the launch, will the product grow in the market? What's the level of consumer brand acceptability? So when you don't see a high level of distributors and support and commitment and willingness to sell the product, they might be reluctant to come. They still continue to do their further search until when they see substantial number of distributors that is willing to create a shelf life, stock, and sell the products. Another thing that we have is switching costs. Switching costs is very, very, very important. It's a key determinant to organization ability to enter a new industry. And by that switching cost, is a simple thing that you know. Let me tell you the simple meaning of switching cost. The switching cost means the additional cost the customers will spend in leaving the product they are used to before to buy a new product. Switching costs. Like for instance, now we all know the price of Pepsi and Coke in the market now is 350. But in a way, some are trying to make additional profits, trying to sell it 400 naira. I've noticed that in the market. So we agree on the average 350, the price of Pepsi and Coke. But now, a new competitor that is coming, they now launch their own products and they are willing to sell it 500 naira. That 500 naira they want to sell, that is addition of 150 naira for the customer that are used to Coke and Pepsi, meaning that the switching cost is high. Anytime the switching cost is high, the customers or the consumers will be reluctant to buy that newly launched product because of additional increase in money. They will have preferred the product that have been tested and they are used to the price, which is still 350. They will prefer to continue to buy Pepsi and Coke at 350 rather than buying a new product that is launched at 500 naira. The only condition under which they can do that is probably if the product is a differentiated product. Because so even me too, I might be reluctant. The additional 150 that I'm paying, I can use that one to buy gala with my Coke or Pepsi that I'm used. So anytime the new entrant discover that the amount they are going to sell is high, maybe probably due to the economic situation and the increasing cost of production, then they have to wait till the time the price stabilizes in the market or the economic is buoyant before they launch their products. Because if the switching cost is high, the number of customers that will buy their products will be extremely low. And this one might have adverse effects on their cost of investment and the profitability they are envisaging. But if the company are sure that their product is innovative, it is unique, it has some additional value than other existing products, then they can launch the product at a high price and take the risks. So another factor that is a major determinant is government regulations.
Is that what you
If the
mean by
government
differentiated products?
What is it?
Is that what you mean by is a differentiated product?
What did I mean by differentiated product?
Is that what you mean? You just your concluding sentence on the last point was that if they see that it's high, the technological something, or if there is a
Yes.
technological advancement,
Yes.
then they can launch it at a higher price. Because
They can launch it at a higher price.
at the beginning of your explanation, you said that the only time when you can go for something above 350 for the example you stated, that is for Coke and Pepsi, is when for differentiated products. So I'm not saying the differentiated products, is that what the concluding sentence, is that what you mean by differentiated?
Yes. What I mean by the concluding aspect of it is that company can decide, a new competitors can decide to launch their product at a higher price. When they have done their survey and what have you, they have seen the ruling market price, and they discover that the product they are bringing the price is a little bit higher than all the existing product that the consumers are using. But yes, they can still go ahead and launch it if the product offer additional value that all the existing product do not offer, if the product is differentiated, or probably if the product is innovative. They get it. Like for instance, now I was doing the research on the technological innovation in Dubai. So this thesis I'm doing for some couple of weeks now, I discovered that when Tesla launched their electric automobile vehicles, a lot of people did not believe that people can buy it. But they have to look at the high income earning consumers that can avoid it. And because of the fact that it is electric car, it is quite different from all the existing cars that we have been seeing around. People still go for it, for those who can avoid it. So when companies discover that they are bringing in something new, something different, and you are ready to give it a good promotional campaign, using probably event sponsorship, celebratory endorsement, and what have you, it can still penetrate the market. Let me give you one good example of a product that we live with presently now, that nobody give them that opportunity that they can come and penetrate the market. It's a newborn baby by a new entrant. That is, what's the name? Is it Viva soap? That detergent. You can see the packaging. Some are packaged in gold, some are, the price they sell it is higher than even the existing detergent that we have in the market. All this magic soap, Bimbo soap, and some other ones. And they give you all necessary aggressive marketing campaign using the like of Davido as a brand ambassador and many more. They even sponsor some events on TV and the rest to give the brand awareness and identity. All that one is understood, so I will not waste much time on that. We started a little bit. We still have some things to look at.
Thank you.
Okay, so government regulations too. If the government regulation is friendly, it is favorable, they will launch. If it is not favorable, they will not launch. So presently now, as at day before yesterday, the CBN pronounced that it's likely they want to increase the interest rate again. Already the tax regime we have is not friendly. A lot of companies are finding it difficult with all these band A, band B, band C. The electricity tariff is killing a lot of companies and individuals. So all this policy is not friendly now. So a lot of companies might wait. This is not the appropriate time to launch a new product. And existence of monopoly, as you can see, monopoly market is not a market that is friendly or advisable for any company to go unless you have that government support. That's the only way you can break the chain of monopoly. So monopoly market will discourage a new entrant. And with that, we can go to the second force, that is the threat from substitute products. Availability of substitute products.
It seems
So
you omitted the fourth point.
What do you say?
The fourth point, time to be established.
Which fourth point? Hello?
Time to become established. I think he did not explain that one.
I've not seen it too.
Okay, the first one, the first one is economy of sales. The other one, capital investment requirements, access to distribution channel. The fourth one, time to become established.
Okay. Yes, I have to skip all these things.
Okay, that's good.
I've simplified them because of the time. Okay, when we are trying to, let me quickly address that. I've seen it. Time to become established. What I'm trying to say in the time to become established is that in some industry, some industry are so difficult for you to achieve brand equity, brand identity, brand personality, because it takes time. Though you might be seeing some customers and the rest, but you have large number of competitors that they are market leaders and they still maintain that leadership position. Their brand is known globally. So let's just go to this industry, sport industry, the likes of Adidas, Nike, and the rest. We have a lot of other companies too, producing very good kits. Do you get it? But how many do you know in that industry? It takes time. Even in the fashion industry, just few ones that we have known for all this while that is growing, that we are still talking about. So others are still striving to establish themselves. So in some industry that it will not be easier for you to have a breakthrough and let your brand to be identified, a lot of people are always reluctant to go to that industry. That is what that time to become established is telling you. Okay, quickly, because of time, is threat from substitute products. Threat from substitute products. So in the threat from substitute product, what we want to say there, or what we need, is that the availability of substitute products is not advantageous to all the existing complaints or competitors in whatever industry you are. You can even see it at our doorstep within the street, in some apartment that we are living. When a new person wants to rent a shop, and they will tell you that, madam, if you look beside you, we have a tailor beside us already. That our grandma there is selling soft drink, bread, whatever. Hope you are selling something that is quite different from their own. If you say yes, then he can give you the rent. If not, they will tell you to look elsewhere. So availability of substitute products will affect the existing competitors, existing company. How? Because anytime a company introduces a new product into the market, and that product will be used in the same way, offer the same benefits to both potential and actual customers, then automatically it will reduce the sale of all the existing products. In the manufacturing industry, because I like using some scenario that you can easily recall, you can see nobody gives it to them. The sudden emergence of big Ebola up to tomorrow creates what we call brand switching. Some customers that brand switch, they plenty, particularly in this our southwest or south side. So anytime a new product is launched, some part of your customers will make a trial purchase. Once they try that new product and that product meet their expectation, probably in terms of taste, quality, durability, or price, they will not come back to you again. So availability of substitute product is a threat to our sales, threat to our profit making in the competitive market. So not to waste time, let's quickly go down. Then we have bargaining power of suppliers. The bargaining power of suppliers, what does that mean? The bargaining power of suppliers means that the supplier have a relatively competitive advantage. The supplier dictates the terms and conditions of business. The bargaining power of the supplier will give the supplier opportunity not to be at the mercy of the customers or buyers. And how can a supplier gain high bargaining power? Suppliers can gain high bargaining power through what we call brand image and good reputation. Those companies that have good brand image, brand popularity, brand identity, they have goodwill, they have high bargaining power. Because it is this thing that we sell them. It is this thing that will attract a lot of investors and customers to come to them. All those companies that produce innovative products, differentiated products, all those companies that build mutually benefiting relationship with their customers, they have high bargaining power. And anytime we have a high bargaining power, then customers will not dictate the price at which they want to buy for us. Opposite the high opposite the bargaining power of supplier is the bargaining power of buyers. In the bargaining power of buyer, the buyer have high bargaining strength over the supplier. And as a result of that, since the buyer have a high bargaining strength over the supplier, they will be the one to dictate the price at which they want to buy, the specification or description of the material, up to the mode of payment. Because we don't have anything to do that will ensure that we manage this kind of customer for us to have what we call a win-win business transaction. So Michael Porter told us that there are some conditions under which the consumers have high bargaining power. For instance, when the consumer is a major and loyal customers that buy in large quantity from us, in fact, the likes of Guinness, Dangote PLC, flour mills, and whatever, they can tell you and explain the bargaining power. Because you can have from one customer can demand for 10 trailers of certain products. That is a high bargaining power. Because the price at which that categories of customer will buy will be quite different from those ones that you buy in retailing, or buy 2 dozen, or buy 1 trailer. So when the volume of their purchase is high relative to the size of the supply, then automatically they have a high bargaining power. The customers will have high bargaining power again if the switching cost is low. You can see the significance of the switching cost now. Can you see? If the new products in the market, they are selling at the same price, you are not giving them the lowest price, so they can easily move. They are not buying in higher cost in another place, and the quality is the same. The product are used in the same way. That product is not even differentiated or slightly differentiated. So if the switching cost is low, then they can switch to another person and buy. In so doing, we have to beg them for them not to go. Is that understood? So these are some of the conditions that give the consumers a high bargaining power. The last one that we have under the Porter's 5 forces model is competitive rivalry. We have competitive rivalry. In the competitive rivalry, Michael Porter said competition is good. Just like what my brother said the other time, that how come they are discouraging competition? Like it is advantageous to the consumers. Now you can see Porter now is on our side. He said the competitive rivalry is very good, that it is essential for socioeconomic development of a nation. He said increasing competitive rivalry among major companies is good for the consumers too, because it will force the price of the produce they are buying to come down. It will increase their standard of living. It will make their demand to be met and their expectations to be fulfilled. Michael Porter said competitive rivalry is good because it will generate more revenue to the government. The scholar said that competitive rivalry is good because it will create more employment opportunities to the citizen. Above all, Porter said increasing competition forces companies to be more innovative. So with that, we have done justice to the 5 forces model of competition that was formulated by Michael Porter. Michael Porter forces model is a model that is used to measure and analyze the competition in any operating. And according to Michael Porter, he said there are 5 forces model that can be used to analyze the degree of competition in a market or industry. Availability of substitute products, the bargaining power of supplier, bargaining power of the buyer, and the rivalry among major competitors. So I assume this is understood. Maybe probably later when we are through with the lecture, I can ask questions because we have about 20 minutes or 23 minutes to look at stakeholders and stakeholders' expectations. Okay, now, permit me to start with stakeholders. Just listing whatever question you have, you can jot it so that I attend to the question made after our lecture, so that we manage the remaining 30 minutes for this our lecture. Stakeholders. So who are those people that we call stakeholders? Stakeholders are individual or group of individuals that have a stake. Please note, that stake simply means interest. You can use the word stake, you can replace it with the word interest. Stakeholders, they are individuals that are known or unknown to the company that have a stake, that is interest in the company activities, success, and performance. So these stakeholders that we are talking about, we have different categories of stakeholders. I've given you large number of what stakeholder is all about. The stakeholder comprises of the shareholders, the host community, the financial institutions, the suppliers, the customers, the directors of the company. Government too is part of the stakeholders. Government, the society or the local community, they are part of the stakeholders. So having looked at that, we have next to that the expectations of stakeholders. Under the expectations of stakeholders, if we go slightly down, you will see this that I put it in a tabular form. So you go through that tabular form later after the lecture. Expectations of the stakeholders. You can see that of shareholders there. The expectation of the shareholders, apart from their right, is for company to have increasing, stable, and high return on investments. That is one expectation of the shareholders. They want high return on investments. Part of their expectations, they want going concern. Nobody pray that the business that you are invested a certain amount of money in, no matter how small, if it is 100 naira, for that business to experience premature death or collapse. So their expectations is for them to have return on investment, stable and increasing dividends, profit making and maximization is there. Goodwill is part of the expectation of the shareholders. Competitiveness, because their companies have to be competitive. Part of the expectations of the shareholders. Market expansions is part of their expectations. Development of new innovative products. Reduction in staff turnover, because that one is not good for the reputation of the company, for God's sake. Staff turnover means the rate at which the workers are leaving the company. It's a symptoms of malfunctioning of the management. It shows that that company is sick. The company is not healthy. When the rate at which your workers is leaving is high, they want a low staff turnover, staff motivation. At the same time, the directors that you are seeing, directors are stakeholders too. Agree that the directors are employed by the shareholders to manage their business resources, make and maximize profits, and accumulate their wealth. Then all these directors must be well remunerated. The directors must have some bonus and incentives. They must be rewarded for their outstanding performance. They have certain incentives that you have to give them, and they must be giving job security. They have to be giving job securities. So the employees too, they are part of the stakeholders of the company. The employees too, they need pay and job security. They need motivation. Their performance appraisal must be unbiased. They need safety at work. These are the things that we call expectations of the shareholders. So in the expectation of the shareholders too, our customers is part of our stakeholders. The customers want the company to produce a wholesome product. That is their expectations. They want value for their money. Apart from value, they want safety for whatever thing they are consuming. So the expectation of the customers is for the company to produce a wholesome, that is hygienic products. They don't want the company to sell obsolete products for them. That is outdated products. They want value for their money. So the suppliers too have so many expectations, including the government. So those are the areas that the syllabus says we should look at the expectations of the stakeholders. So as we look at the expectation of the stakeholders, let's quickly classify stakeholders. The classification means types of stakeholders. I've told you not quite long some questions that came out on the stakeholders. We tell them to list and explain the different categories of stakeholders. In one of the past questions that came out, I think 2021, if I don't make a mistake of the year or so, they give us a case scenario. The company lied in that case that they made provision for all their external stakeholders, that they have a very cordial relationship. They put in place a sustainable plan and environmental protection and compliance with government regulation in order to see to the satisfaction and meeting of the stakeholders' expectation. And it was a lie, it was fallacy. That one was injected in the case. We have to state it the way it is in the case, that the company is deficient in their relationship with the external stakeholders. So under the classification of stakeholders, we have different categories of stakeholders. The first one that you will see is the external stakeholders. Please quickly go to classification of stakeholders and let's be time conscious. Probably before we start our next class, you can remind me, you can do a recap, a revision on the portals competition analysis and the stakeholders. If you have any questions, you can ask. Then we start our new lecture. In the classification of stakeholders, when you go underneath, we discover that the first type of stakeholders that you are going to see there is external stakeholders. External stakeholders. The external stakeholders are the category, the first thing that you see is internal stakeholders. Internal stakeholders. The internal stakeholders are the categories of stakeholders that have a closer relationship with the company. All because they are external stakeholders, they play active role. Some of them are part of the management. Some of them, they play immense role in the achievement of the day-to-day objectives and long-term goals of the company. The internal stakeholders, they are greatly affected by the company policy, procedures, and decisions. And at the same time, they have legitimate rights and they can influence the government, the company policy. Those are the people that we call internal stakeholders. Example of internal stakeholders are employees of the company, employees, directors. The example of internal stakeholders. Opposite that is what we call external stakeholders. The external stakeholders, they are the categories of stakeholders that play lesser role in day-to-day activities and operational functions of the company. They are catalysts too. They serve as lubricants that trigger the achievement of the company goals. A good example of the external stakeholders are the government. Governments, our customers and suppliers, they are external stakeholders. Apart from the external stakeholders, we are required to know that the categories of stakeholders that we have, they are more than internal and external. Another one that you can see underneath, we have narrow and wide stakeholders. Narrow and wide stakeholders. Maybe that narrow and wide, the more or less an idiomatic expression. Because what we want to use here is the degree of closeness with the company and how they are affected by the company policy and decision. So that one will give us opportunities to save our time. The first one that we have as narrow stakeholders. My learned colleagues, the narrow stakeholders are the categories of stakeholders that have a very cordial relationship with the company. The narrow stakeholders, they play major roles in achievement of the company goals and objectives. Narrow stakeholders, some of them are part of the management of the company. So the narrow stakeholders are much affected by whatever policy and decision the company takes. A good example of narrow stakeholder is the company employees that we call staff. So on the other hand, the wide stakeholders, they are less dependent on the company and less affected by the company policy and decision. So a good example, they are the host community, the society where the company is operating, the government. Because once you pay your tax, you abide by the rules and regulations guiding business conduct. There is a fair competition. You follow the employment law. Then government don't have any problem with you. So the wide stakeholders, they have a wider relationship with the company and they are less affected with the company's policy. Another one that we have quickly is primary and secondary stakeholders. If I should tell you the logic here, that the primary stakeholders is the same thing as narrow stakeholders and is the same thing as internal stakeholders. Maybe after this lecture, you can play this recorded voice note, and at the same time, you can look at the notes. You will discover that the primary stakeholders, internal stakeholders, and the narrow stakeholders, they are the same thing, including legitimate stakeholders and active stakeholders. They are the same thing because you cite the same examples there. Like for instance, now look at the primary stakeholders. The primary stakeholders are the categories of stakeholders that we have been talking about that play a major role in day-to-day activities of the company. They are pivotal in achieving or translating the company broad goals into specific objectives. Example, we have the employees of the company. Can you see? Why the secondary stakeholders? They are external to the company, majority of them. And the secondary stakeholders, they play lesser roles. Example, the host community, the media houses, the government. They are secondary stakeholders. The same thing is applicable to active and passive stakeholders. When you read this thing, the active stakeholders are the employees of the company, the directors of the company, the supervisors, in fact, including the gateman and support staff, all this cleaner and whatever. They are active stakeholders of the company. While the passive stakeholders, they are those stakeholders that they don't influence the company policy. They are less affected by the company policy. A good example there too, our local community and government. Once we comply, and the local community too, we don't engage in any pollution or our method of production did not create any adverse health effect, then we are going to have a symbiotic positive relationship with each other. Voluntary stakeholders and involuntary stakeholders, to me, maybe because I have an in-depth holistic understanding of this. A voluntary stakeholder still refer to the company staff, the employees, because they became the stakeholders of this company voluntarily. Majority of them wrote application. Majority of them did aptitude tests, recruitment tests. They undergo training. And anytime they feel they want to leave, yes, they can leave honorarily and say for greener pasture elsewhere. So voluntary stakeholders are stakeholders that they are not under any duress or undue influence or by force. they join the company voluntarily. Why the involuntary stakeholders? They don't have any choice than to become a stakeholders of the company. That is the host community or the society or the locality where the company is operating. A good example of involuntary stakeholders is government. To file your business operates here in Nigeria, be it the local government, state government, or local government, you must have something to do with them or the federal government. So the legitimate stakeholders, we see that legitimate and illegitimate stakeholders, I put it, legitimate stakeholders are those stakeholders that have legitimate rights or claims. A good example, employees. They can demand for increase in salary. They can demand for increase in working condition. They can demand for leave. It can even be leave with pay. While illegitimate stakeholders, they don't have that right to demand from the company. We have known and unknown stakeholder. The known stakeholders are stakeholders that are known to the company. While the unknown stakeholders, that the categories of stakeholders that they are unknown to the company, but yet they have interest. They follow the company. They are interested in their performance, their sources, and growth. A good example of all these unknown stakeholders are, most of these are, in fact, it's not a matter of age. Age is not a determinant here. Majority of those are football lovers. We have Arsenal fans, we have Chelsea fans, we have Barcelona fans, and what have you. So many people, they know their history, they know this, they know that, they know how much they have invested in the window market now when they are buying players. At times they can fight their wife, fight their children, they bet and whatever, and they are not known in England. Nobody knows them. They are unknown stakeholders. Despite the fact that they are unknown stakeholders, companies have to ensure that they uphold their performance, dignity, and image, so that what these unknown stakeholders are saying in them, that made them to have vested interest in them, they will continue to do it right. And in the unknown stakeholders too, we are being advised as a company, particularly all those companies that operate in the manufacturing, constructive industry, mining industry, you have to take a bit greater attention to the environment, including to the animals, for their unknown stakeholders too. We have to protect them, and you have to avoid any things like pollution or environmental degradation that can damage the life of people. So we have a diagrammatic representation of what we call stakeholders. You can see stakeholders in the middle, and everything that revolves around it are stakeholders. The animal species, shareholders, employees, management, customers, suppliers, government, creditors, the media houses. These are the different categories of stakeholders that we just talked about. So having looked at that, let's increase our speed a bit. Then we go to stakeholders mapping. Let's quickly go to stakeholders mapping. Let me know if you are there, please. Hello? Can I proceed? Hello? Stakeholders mapping. Can I continue, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. You see, this stakeholder mapping, listening, is simple. And there's no way they can toy you. And maybe they twist the question, whatever. There is no way they can do it, manipulate anything here. You will know that they are talking about stakeholders mapping. In fact, in instances, they will tell you to discuss it directly. The highest that can come is to give us case scenario and tell us to categorize them for us to know the kind of level of power or influence they have. Let me summarize the stakeholders mapping in the next 10 minutes. You see, this stakeholders mapping was formulated by a renowned strategic scholar that we call Mendello. We are going to see the name as our lecture proceeds. Mendello. Mendello formulated the stakeholders mapping all because of these different numbers of stakeholders that we have been stating: legitimate, illegitimate, known, unknown, internal, external, primary, secondary, active, dormant. He said the essence of all these different categories of stakeholders and what a director or managers should learn from it is that they should be able to identify different categories of stakeholders they are dealing with. And once you know that, you must identify their level of influence, the degree of power, interest, and importance they have, so that you'll be able to know that the stakeholders' needs are not the same. You'll be able to know that some stakeholders are more powerful than each other. So to avoid internal tension and disequilibrium, once we can be able to identify all these different categories of stakeholders, then the board of directors, the manager, the shareholders themselves will be able to manage them for us to achieve continuity and peaceful coexistence. According to Mendello, he said the stakeholders mapping can be categorized into two. Stakeholders mapping can be categorized into two. That is two matrices. We have one. We have stakeholders power and interest matrix. The first categories of stakeholders mapping is one, stakeholders power and interest matrix. Two, stakeholders position and importance matrix. You see, the first one that we said, stakeholders power and interest matrix, what it simply means is that of all the different categories of stakeholders that we have, some have high power and interest. Some, their level of power is low, but they have high interest in the organization. Some, they have high power and low interest in the company. Why some? Their stake is that they have both low power and low interest. So Mendello is not saying that in the stakeholders power and interest matrix, directors should know different categories of stakeholders based on their power and interest, and how this can affect the company. He now categorize stakeholders into four. The stakeholders power and interest was categorized into four main types, and that is represented in the diagram that you are seeing, that illustration. We have four categories of stakeholders under the power and interest matrix. We have one, keep satisfied stakeholders. We have two, manage closely stakeholders. We have three, that one is monitor stakeholders, and the last one we have keep informed stakeholders. Please, may I ask you if you have a pen with you there, please? Hello, my learned colleagues, you have pen? Okay, let me now simplify this. Just sit down, this thing to give you a more simplified one. That under the stakeholders, Mendello's power and interest stakeholders, we have four different categories of stakeholders. We have one, put it down, please. We have four categories of stakeholders. Number one, minimum effort stakeholders. Minimum effort stakeholders. Minimum effort. Okay. This category of stakeholders have low power and low interest in the company. The minimum effort stakeholders, they have low power and low interest in the company. So as a result of that, They are not a burden to the directors, managers, and the shareholders. All they are after is for the company to be successful, fruitful, continue growing, flourishing. The minimum effort stakeholders, they have LL, low, low. The level of power is low, level of interest is low. Second one, we have keep satisfied stakeholders. Keep satisfied stakeholders. They have low level of power and high interest in the company. Keep satisfied stakeholders. They have low level of power and high interest in the company. They have done that. The third one, keep informed stakeholders. Keep informed stakeholders. The keep informed stakeholders, they have low level of power and high interest in the company. Keep informed stakeholders. Why the last one that we have is called key players. Key players. They are the most powerful stakeholders, all because they have high power, high level of power and high interest. Key players stakeholders, they have high power and high interest. So as a result of that, they have a commanding decisions in the organization. They can shake the company. Their interest or demand must be met. And if company directors fail to listen to their demand and yearnings, they can co-opt with other forms of stakeholders, bring all of them together to fight the management. Because other categories of stakeholders, the minimum effort stakeholders, keep informed stakeholders, keep satisfied stakeholders, they believe in them. Anytime they need things to, they lobby through them. So majority of the key players, they are majority shareholders. Because some of them are investors. Some of them are directors, executive directors. So they have a say. So we have to identify all these different categories of stakeholders. So when you look at the different categories of stakeholders, you may know that the number one that is most powerful is key players, followed by keep informed. Followed by keep satisfied. The third one is keep informed, while the lowest one that did not have any power and interest is what? Minimum effort stakeholders. So having looked at that, we now look at the second. Okay, let me take your question quickly.
Yeah, based on what I have here, I have the same characteristics for 2 and 3. That is, keep satisfied and keep informed. Is that true? But looking at the
Keep satisfied.
Different. Yeah.
No, we have minimum effort stakeholders, low power, low interest. Keep informed. They keep informed, they have low power. Do you get it? And high interest. Why they keep satisfied? They keep satisfied, they have high power, low interest. But it is only key players that have it high. They are the strongest. They have high power and high interest in the company. Thank you for that observation. So the second one, let's quickly look at the second thing that Mendello talks about. That is stakeholders' position and importance. Stakeholders' position and importance. Even if we like, we can put this one too in diagram. But the reason why I decided not to put it in diagram is that at times some students, they like to cram everything. I don't want any confusion because we have some scholars Under this stakeholders' position and importance, some scholars use the word ILO. Are you with me? Why some scholars, instead of using ILO, they use +5, -5, +10. So I don't want all these plus to cause confusion for my students in exam. So that's the reason why I ignore all these +5, -5, whatever. So what we are interested here and what do we ask you in exam? The stakeholders' position and importance. This one to really come out is the first one that comes out regularly. Position and power and interest. But that notwithstanding, we have to know this. Even is beyond the exam. In the stakeholders' position and importance, we have 4 categories of stakeholders. We have problematic stakeholders, antagonistic stakeholders, low priority stakeholders, and we have supportive stakeholders. So the problematic and antagonistic stakeholders, they are the categories of stakeholders that antagonize the government policy. They are not on the side of the directors. So this kind of stakeholders, we have to identify them, try to build relationship with them to minimize their threats, antagonism, and disturbance so that the company can move forward. And we have to ensure that all their demands too are met. So the third one that we have is low priority stakeholders. When you look at the first one that we just discussed about, the low priority stakeholder is the same thing as minimum effort stakeholders, all because they have low positions and low importance in the organization. But yet, you must recognize them. We must respect them. Let their voice be heard too, so that we can win them on the part of the management. The last categories of stakeholders that we have under position and importance is supportive stakeholders. All these ones are there to support the company. They support the company in all aspects. They are catalysts to the continuous, sustainable, and improved performance of the company. As a result of that, the company directors must build good relationship with them. So under the position and importance, we have 4 categories of stakeholders: problematic stakeholders, antagonistic stakeholders, low priority stakeholders, and supportive stakeholders. 2 antagonize the management. One is neutral, which is low priority, and another one supportive, always on the side of the management. We must know how we manage all these people, all their demands, how we are going to meet their demands and expectations. Once we can be able to do this, then there's going to be a peaceful coexistence in the organization. And that is what the syllabus required. So I just added, when you look underneath, you see shareholders and directors. I decided to add that one, though I knew that you know the meaning, you can differentiate between the two. All of you are professor in Embryo and you are gifted. So me too, I'm still learning through you and tapping from your knowledge. So the shareholders are the owners of the business. They are the ones that own, finance, and manage the business. They are the employers of the employees. They are the decision makers. So they employ the directors. They give the directors legitimate rights, authority to manage their business for them. The directors are expected to use their resources effectively, make and maximize profit. That's what they appointed the directors for. And at the end of the day, they have to ensure that they remunerate the directors. They even give them reward, performance reward, and many. So this one will minimize the number of vice habits, fraudulent and misappropriation of the company resources if the directors are well rewarded. So that's what the summary of what we have about the directors and the shareholders. And the BOD, the board of directors, That one, we are going to discuss on that one in governance. By the time we start governance, the board of directors comprises of both the executive and non-executive directors. So the executive directors, they are the ones that see to the management of the company, the oversight and the rest. They are always on the full-time basis, and they are incentivized to get reward, performance reward for what they are doing. So while the non-executive directors, majority of them, depending in some countries, they are part-time. So the non-executive directors, they are there to perform the non-management role. They are there for check and balances. They are there for whistleblowers. They are there to see to accountability and determination of remuneration. So with that, we have concluded our lectures for today. So remind you that the type of stakeholders that we have, they are beyond the internal and the external that we still have underneath. We have internal stakeholders, external stakeholders. We have legitimate and illegitimate stakeholders, primary and secondary stakeholders. We have known and unknown stakeholders. We have narrow and wide stakeholders. So all these categories of stakeholders are many. At the same time, we have been able to discuss on the Mendeley stakeholders mapping today. That stakeholders mapping will assist us to identify and categorize different stakeholders that we have and design the strategic approach that we can use to manage whatever challenges, their demand, their expectations, so that we are going to have internal peaceful coexistence and continuity. So in the Mendeley stakeholders, it is categorized into two. We have one, we have the power and interest matrix. In the power and interest matrix, Mendeley said that we have 4 different categories of stakeholders. We have minimum effort stakeholders, keep informed stakeholders, keep satisfied stakeholders, and we have key players stakeholders. Irrespective of their level of position and interest, we have to ensure that all of them are recognized, their interests are protected, and we manage them. The second Mendeley mapping, stakeholders analysis, is what we call position and importance. Under the position of importance, that one can be abbreviated as PALS, P-A-L-S. You know, the first one that we did was power and interest. We can abbreviate that one as maybe a code that students use. You can use that maybe M K raised to power 3. M K raised to power 3. M for minimum effort stakeholders, keep informed, that is 1K, keep satisfied, another K, and key players, the third K. But when it comes to the Mendeley's position and importance, then we can abbreviate that one as PALS, P-A-L-S. P for problematic stakeholders, A, antagonistic stakeholders, L for low priority stakeholders, and the last one that we have as S, supportive stakeholders. So thanks for listening. Really appreciate your commitment and effort. God will crown your effort with success. Any question, please? Because I'm having another lecture now. I'll be pleased and happy to meet you next week. We meet in peace by special grace of God.
Thank you. So,
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Very quick question. I just want to know the MK3 raised power 3. Is it,
Yes.
can we relate it to the PALS? Like I'm thinking the S, can it be the key players? Why is it? Can we link them? Is it possible?
Oh, okay, you mean can we link them? It is possible. It is possible. Once you understand it very well, one can link them. Because one thing I too try anytime I'm reading like you is that I try to read so that I can express myself. I will have a better understanding. I can go each way. Do you get it? You know, since the supportive stakeholders are on the side of the companies, do you get it? And they are only people that we learn on, just like the low priority stakeholder. So the supportive stakeholder, we can see them as key players. But if I should lose that one, if those ones should go and join antagonistic and then problematic, then the company is finished. You are right, they are key players. And why you see that low priority is just like minimum effort stakeholders. They have low power and low interest. Under this one too, they have low position and importance. It is a very good strategic view. You are right. You're right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome.